We get this started?
Yes,
what
absolutely.
Do you think?
Yep.
Absolutely. All right, so this is COPE, and I'm Ann Alton, the physical therapist here at Illinois Regional Pain Institute. Today we have Mary Ardapple, and she's going to talk to us about food and the holidays coming up.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'll let her introduce the rest of herself.
Well, thanks, Ann. It is so nice to be here with all of you today. It's a lovely day, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
It's always nice, I think, to gather and talk about food. For one, I think about food absolutely all the time. So let me give you a little bit of background of what brings me to share time with you today, a little bit about my background. For those of you that might know of Apple's Bakery or O'Leary's Restaurant in the past number of years, those were my businesses, and so I was pretty intricately involved in food for nearly 35 years in the Peoria area. And when I retired the bakery back in 2015, I decided, well, I couldn't just go read books or go hike. I needed to do something, and I certainly couldn't just cook for people. I needed to do something to really connect with my passion for food and people. So I took the opportunity of that retirement time and became a health coach. So I have a company called CoreView Coach, and I work one-on-one with individuals, and I do talks around the community, really around building your relationship with food. We all eat, right?
Yep.
We gotta eat. Our bodies need the food to survive. But I operate under the premise that there are really 4 principles that make our food most meaningful and make our body the most healthy. And that's our relationships with one another. It's our career path, whatever that may be. Whether you're retired or not, you still have a bulk of a day that you focus on something. An exercise regimen, and then whatever your spiritual practice may be. Doesn't mean that you practice in a church. You could be like me, the trees are my church. So wherever you operate, that you believe in a higher power. When we put those 4 things in balance, then our body has a tendency to say, thank you very much. It feels very fulfilled. When we have areas in our body that are out of balance, it dynamically influences the food choices that we choose. So my understanding with each of you here, you enjoy the services that Ann and Lindsay offer because of part of your well-being, part of your wellness practice. Fortunately, we've got areas such like this that you can come and strengthen your bodies, your hearts, your minds to be a more fulfilled person. So today we're going to talk about food and the holidays. Like I said, I talk about food all the time. But I want to talk about the holidays, and especially if we are coping with some other condition in our body. Oftentimes when we have those conditions in our body, it creates a lot of stress, right? And those conditions also create a lot of inflammation. Well, then you throw Thanksgiving on top of that. And I can tell you, in all my years of being in the bakery business and the restaurant, especially being in the bakery business, people would start coming in and say, oh my gosh, it's gonna be Thanksgiving. And I always wanted to say, yeah, it's the 4th Thursday of every November, your entire life. The date changes, but it's always on that 4th Thursday. It was an interesting reflection as to how we don't really pay attention to that calendar because we're so wrapped up in our daily life. And then all of a sudden, here comes Thanksgiving. And it's a day. We don't do a ramp up to Thanksgiving the way we do Christmas. We ramp up to Christmas with baking all our favorite cookies and candies and eating everything we can get our hands on. But Thanksgiving, all of a sudden, you're going about your life and it's Thanksgiving. And all of a sudden, you realize you either have to take something to somebody's house, or you've got 20 or 30 people coming to your house, and now you're starting to stress out about what you're going to make. I don't know about you guys, but that's pretty common in my world even, of like, okay, all of a sudden I need to do this, this, and this. And our stress levels start to ratchet up. And when we have our stress levels start to ratchet up, that causes even more inflammation in our bodies. So especially with each of you here that you are dealing with some physical issue of distress in your body, that stress around the holidays just even has the opportunity to compound it a little bit more. So today, what I'd really like us to talk about, and I'll answer all kinds of questions at the end, but I'd like to talk about how do you take some of your side dishes and turn them into good, healthy side dishes. And so what I mean by that is, how do you get away from white sugar in particular? Our holidays have an incredible amount of white sugar built into them naturally. We all need sweeteners. Our body actually requires an element of sweetener, but we have a tendency in our American diet to overeat white sugar in particular. So there's this yin and the yang. The stresses of society around the holidays, then that influences that we are going to make poor choices. Then there's the stress around Thanksgiving because everybody and their mother, aunt, uncle, and sister makes the best whatever. And so you're going to go to this house, or they're going to come to your house, and on the counter, seriously, right, you can see it in your head right now, right, that there's going to be 15 or 20 dishes along this buffet. And you're like, well, for one, I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, so I didn't eat hers this year, so I feel obligated I should eat out of every dish. Well, no, you really don't need to. I know it seems like the polite thing to do, but really you don't. And then you also say, well, I don't have room on this plate, so I'll come back and make another plate at Thanksgiving time, in particular, more so than at Christmas. So a couple of tips around the Thanksgiving meal that I'd like you to keep in mind and to try and pre-plan to reduce a little bit of stress about when you go to that house or when you set up your buffet at home, is take a preview of what's on the counter before you even approach it with a plate. Okay? So watch who's bringing in what. It's like, oh, last year that was really good. Oh, there's a new recipe over here. But become aware of what's on the counter before you start to fill your plate. It's a simple thing to do, but we often are busy talking, and then all of a sudden it's like, prayer's done, get in line, shovel it on the plate. So step back from the counter and then take small portions of everything that you choose, but make sure that half of your plate is vegetables. And I encourage you to make half your plate vegetables, and that would mean vegetables that aren't in a sauce. That's where it gets kind of tough at Thanksgiving because there's so many casseroles that will come at Thanksgiving, okay? So picture in your mind right now your dinner plate and say, okay, I'm going to sample a lot of this stuff, but that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to sample. I'm not going to take a full portion of anything. And I'm going to quantify over here, I'm going to quantify fresh vegetables as much as possible. So when you're eating carrots and cucumbers, even shaved Brussels sprouts, pea pods, those types of those are free foods. You can eat absolutely as many of them as you want. And they're called net zero calories, okay? What that means is that it actually takes your body more calories to digest those particular items than it does of the nutrient content in those vegetables. So if you fill half your plate with vegetables of that nature, or when it's the appetizers in the front, stay away from the chips as much as possible and really focus on the vegetables. Your body's actually working with you. And I don't know about you, but I like dessert. I'm a retired sugar peddler, so I'm aiming for 2 pieces of dessert. I'm open about it at Thanksgiving. I'm having 2 slices of pie, okay? But that means that I gotta factor in and I gotta think about what I'm going to eat and put on my plate before I get to dessert, and that's really important. So in your pamphlets today, I've brought you a lot of materials to think about to take home with you. There's a pamphlet that says Thanksgiving, give thanks on the front of it. And in here are recipes of really traditional Thanksgiving menus, or side dishes, and a dessert that have absolutely no white sugar in them. They're actually sweetened with honey if they call for a sugar, and replacing honey in white sugar is something I encourage you really to consider doing when you're baking even. Take about 1/3 of the amount of white sugar out of a recipe and replace that with honey. So if it's a cup, it's okay. That happens to me all the time too. If the recipe calls for a cup of white sugar, then put 2/3 of honey in it instead, and it will bake just fine.
So it's 1 for 1. then? Like
If
if you're taking 2/3 of a cup of sugar
No.
out, put in
No.
2/3 of a cup
If it
of
calls
honey?
for 1 cup of sugar,
Okay.
then use 2/3 cup of honey. You're taking
Okay.
a third out.
Oh, okay. So it's all, you take out all the sugar and put in.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's-
okay.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
replacing
Just-
honey for the sugar.
Right,
So
okay.
if you're
Very good.
replacing it, when you do that, reduce your sugar by about a third in
Okay.
most all your recipes, whether you're baking or not.
Okay.
So when I just talked about, I don't know, how many in the room like green bean casserole? Yeah, I do too. It's really not very good for you.
You know what, my kids hate it.
Do they hate it? But you
like
like
it.
it. Yeah. So,
We're not making it this year.
no, well, here's a recipe you could make, and you
Okay,
could
that's
give it
what
a
I just
try.
saw, yeah.
Okay? So one of the things for me, and this is my pattern, is I try and stay away from all canned soups, all canned vegetables, because of the sodium content in them. And that is one of the areas that our heritage restaurant recipes really rely on, are canned soups in particular. So cream of mushroom soup, cream of chicken soup, cream of celery soup get inserted in so many of our heritage casseroles today. So what I've given you today in this pamphlet is a recipe for skillet green bean casserole. So you can use fresh green beans. You can get them in our supermarkets year-round now. They're awesome. Then you're going to go ahead and follow through that recipe. You actually make your own fresh mushroom sauce in the skillet. Throw the blanched green beans into that. Throw it in the oven with some panko crumbs and a little sprinkle of Parmesan cheese, and let it go ahead and cook through for about 20 or 30 minutes, and it will be delicious. It'll be absolutely delicious. And you have now removed all of that sodium that comes with the canned soup. And when we're dealing with pain issues and inflammation, sodium is just not our friend. It is just not our friend to our organs or to our joints. So I encourage you to try some of those types of recipes. The other one is shaved Brussels sprouts. It's a real favorite of mine. You could eat a whole plate of these and be very full and very, very healthy. How many people don't like Brussels sprouts? We all.
I love 'em.
Okay,
They're all right to me.
they're all right with you, but you're not overly crazy about them.
They're okay.
You're okay. Well, right now for Thanksgiving, I would encourage you to try this Brussels sprout recipe. And one of the things is I would really encourage you to do is to go to the Metro Market and see with Garden Spot is still there on the weekends. There's also a farmer's market at Junction City on Saturday mornings, Grandma and Grandpa's. And the Brussels sprouts you get now from a local grower are absolutely the best Brussels sprouts you will get all year round. And it's because they've gone through a frost. And so Brussels sprouts themselves, hi, welcome.
Sorry I'm late.
That's okay. Brussels sprouts get sweeter after they've gone through a frost. So they come from the cabbage family. And so if you've had them in the past and they seem a little strong to you, now they'll actually be sweet. They'll actually sweeten on down. And this recipe that I strongly urge you to try is a capful of maple syrup, and it's got to be 100% maple syrup. If you're going to eat syrup, either eat the real thing in my book, unless a doctor has told you not to. And I'm not a doctor or a nutritionist. I'm a food professional. Use 100% grade maple syrup in red wine vinegar. And it's a capful of each of those across all of these Brussels sprouts, and you will think that you've got a really, really rich dressing on it. It's absolutely fabulous. The last recipe on here that I'd like you to consider taking a look at are the mashed sweet potatoes. I use applesauce in those. So instead of having your sweet potato casserole, which also traditionally has a lot of sugar, sweet potatoes really don't need that sugar, is to bake off the sweet potatoes ahead of time. Instead of boiling them, if you bake them, you will bring the natural sweetness out of that potato, as opposed to when you boil, you're boiling away the flavor. And we were talking, Lindsay and I were talking about little prep things you can do ahead of time for your Thanksgiving meal. Bake off those sweet potatoes up to 5 days ahead of time, and then peel them. The skins will just slip right off. Put them through a food processor and add some unsweetened applesauce to them instead of any other sweetener. and a little bit of melted coconut oil to give it that richer instead of butter. So I use coconut oil. When you use coconut oil in a recipe, always make sure that you melt it before you put it in there, otherwise it does not incorporate as well as you'd like it to. So there are some, I think, some really good recipes here. I hope that you give them a try. They're just really fun. And my email address is on the back. If you have any questions as you're doing it, just shoot me an email. Yes, ma'am. And I'm happy to answer those for you. Yes, ma'am.
You said shaved Brussels sprouts, is that like grating them or something? Or?
You can either take them through a grater, take them through a slicer if you have a food processor, or just take your knife and thinly slice them. So when you clean a fresh Brussels sprout, you're going to think of a cabbage, but they're just going to be small. Just take the very end of the stem off, and then a couple of the outer leaves will naturally fall off. I let those go by the wayside. They're traditionally a little limper, and then you'll get onto the inside. So a Brussels sprout, an average size Brussels sprout alone is only 8 calories. And so if you actually take 5 Brussels sprouts as a serving, you're going to, and you shave them down like that real fine, you're going to have a really nice side plate of a vegetable that gives you the mental appearance of a big serving, but it really is not. Okay?
I'm not picturing this. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
When you do a Brussels sprout,
Mhm.
are you making it? You're slicing them,
Mhm.
so it'll be like cabbage then.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Now, okay.
Just remember, they're small,
Yeah.
so you got to make sure you keep your fingertips out of the way of the
Right.
knife. Okay?
You said that for me, didn't you?
I just thought I'd go ahead and give that little helpful hint. I have another recipe card that I brought today that you might try twofold. One for a quick night dinner, even though it's not a holiday, and there's a template for stir fry on it. So if you take those types of items and just quickly flash them in your skillet, meaning high heat, the oil has melted, they're going to saute off in just a couple of moments, and then go ahead and put that over some brown rice or quinoa. It makes a really great, quick, during the week or even on the weekend meal. And you can just swap in and out. It's just really a template. But on the back side is the cool avocado ranch dip recipe. How many people really like guacamole? Yeah, I'm with you. I love guacamole. One of the challenges is I don't know when to stop eating guacamole, so pretty soon the bowl's gone, you know? So keeping avocados around, I came across this recipe a while ago, and this is a wonderful dip to take to a party. It's also great to have in your own refrigerator. It's super as a sandwich spread, or you can thin it down a little bit for a salad dressing. But all the ingredients are on the back. You throw it in a blender, boom, you've got a really nice light and refreshing dip. And again, let's face it, at Thanksgiving, there's first the table of all the chips and the cheese and the crackers and the meatballs and the shrimp and the guacamole and the salsa, and then there's the French onion dip. And then I don't know about you, but in my family there's a cheese log that one person brings every year, and so you know you just got to hit that table first, right? And then you're going to get to this banquet on the counter. So it's how do you take or how do you prepare thoughtful dishes that are less caloric, more nutrient rich, so that you're inserting some of those things. Whether others in attendance at your Thanksgiving feast choose to eat them or not, that's up to them. But you're there to feed yourself first. And so if you can make sure that you're incorporating some of that into your own diet, that's what's really important. We're here to feed ourselves first. And I didn't mention on the other recipe, the other dip that is in there, it has cottage cheese in it. You blend cottage cheese. So you're getting a really good, nutritious, low dairy fat, but with high protein. So anytime you can substitute plain Greek yogurt, and I choose Fahey 2% yogurt instead of sour cream, that's great because you're adding a protein content into either your baking or into your meals, or cottage cheese can frequently be substituted in that same way. You also have in your packet, I printed this off, I don't use all of these things, but it's a good resource to have. if you're looking at trying to refine your diet and you want, and maybe your doctor says get away from eating certain things, here is an ingredient substitution chart that will help you make some different decisions. One area I encourage each of you as you start to look at refining your diet for your health, that you want to be the healthiest version of yourself, experimenting with different foods is the best first place to start. And we need to retrain our brain and retrain our taste buds to get away from the go-to foods that we've always gone to. And if we're not feeling well that day, or we're feeling a little blue, not physically, but we could use a hug, and nobody's there to give us a hug or to take that pain away, that quart of ice cream in the freezer oftentimes looks pretty darn good. You know, I get that. But we want to say, not today. I'm going to choose some different foods and experiment with different foods to give myself a variety because I'm worth it. And that's one area I'd really like to leave with you from all of our conversation today, is that each of you are worth feeling really, really good. And it really begins with, the first step is knowing what you eat and when you eat it. So leading up to that big Thanksgiving Day, I've also given you a template that you can copy off should you choose to create a food diary for yourself. Just like when we're at the holidays and we're shoveling it in down the buffet table, we don't really take a long time to think about day to day, what are we eating? And then how do we feel a couple hours after we eat that? So if you are a person that is interested in having a deeper relationship with your body through your food, I as a health coach, that's what I do with all of my clients right out of the gate, is we do a 14-day food diary. And they don't all, I mean, we can't do it every day, life gets in the way, I give you that. But if you were to do a food diary such as this, or printed one off of the internet, and you laid the sheets of paper out on your counter in the kitchen, and you filled it out daily, and you really started to look at, what am I eating? We really don't remember that. So we really don't. And so there's the thing of the psychological of like, oh, I'll fill it out tomorrow. No, you really need to fill it out that day. So before you go to bed at night, fill it out. Or if you're at home, fill it out after each meal. And also keep track of how much water you're drinking at the same time. Because also, we think we're drinking enough water, but I'll guarantee you, none of us drink as much water as we think we are, or should. So as we're working on becoming the healthier versions of ourselves, water is a must. So just like at the Thanksgiving meal, when I suggest that you have half your plate be filled with vegetables, I also encourage you, before your guests come over, or before you go to your holiday location, drink a giant glass of water. And I mean more like 12 ounces of water, not an 8-ounce glass. Drink a big glass of water. A couple of reasons for that. One, your stomach's going to feel full when you get there. So when you get to that snack table, you're not going to graze quite as heavily as you will. We already know that we're going to, but you won't graze quite as heavily. Number two, you're going to be eating foods that you don't normally eat on a day-to-day basis. They aren't part of your everyday. So what comes with that is a lot more sodium, a lot more sugar, some herbs that you may not traditionally eat all the way. And so you're protecting the stomach lining by keeping it well hydrated all the way during that day. And so then if we go hungry to the grocery store, right, we buy things that we shouldn't. It's no different than going to a holiday meal. If you wait and go hungry, you're going to blow it right away. Okay, so really those two things. The last thing that I would really, as it relates in preparation for going to your meal, is exercise. Some of you that came in earlier heard my husband just ran, he's an ultra runner, running's a big deal in our household. But even on the holiday time, we say we need to do at least 30 minutes of walking before we go to the meal. How often do you go for a walk after the meal, right? Because you're full, It's time to get out of the stuffy house, get a little fresh air if the weather's is cooperating, and we're going to go ahead and let that settle back down. And then we're going to go back and add more to it because then it's dessert time. And right? So what I encourage you to do is the morning of every holiday is to find some kind of exercise that fits into your daily life. I'm a proponent of walking. Say the weather's lousy and you can't get outside to go walking, you know, and you don't have a piece of exercise equipment. Well, what can you do? And that's what I ask you to ask yourself that particular question. What can I do? Because it's only up to us for our bodies to feel wonderful. It's only up to us. And there are some conditions we can't do anything about. I'm sorry, there isn't that magic wand that can make all conditions go away. But we can empower ourselves to do so much more if we commit to some of those simple exercises. So as long as you're able to walk stairs and you have stairs in the house, say before I go to Bob's or Betty's house, I'm going to walk up and down the stairs 3 times, 3 flights of stairs. Say stairs aren't a good thing for you. Maybe your knees don't do stairs. Okay, not a problem. I'm going to walk from my kitchen all the way down the longest hallway and back again, and I'm going to do that 5 times. Doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that you're raising awareness inside of your body and a willingness inside of your mind that you're going to go ahead and put a little exercise on your body. You don't have to run a marathon. It's just keeping yourself in motion. Say your house is confined and you don't have a long haul. Then sit in the chair and just do some chair exercises. Just bring those knees up and down and say, I'm going to do it for 10 minutes, okay? So I really encourage you to do that, especially on a holiday time. Lastly, in preparing for a holiday meal, is the stress not only around the preparation and the mealtime itself, but I don't know in your family of friends or co-workers or family members, is there a person that you dread that you're going to see? That's not uncommon either. And I'll tell you, I'm blessed. I have a loving family. I love to see all of them. But I recognize that not all families are like that. And we have a lot of blended families today. We have a lot of different personalities out there today. And when oftentimes we are starting to think about going to Thanksgiving or to a special occasion, it's like, oh God, she married that guy. And I'm going to have to see him. And I don't know what to talk about. Or, oh Lordy, Uncle Frank's going to be there and all he talks about is politics. And I just don't want to hear it, right? That's really part of what makes a meal healthy or unhealthy. And those are those emotional vampires that we all are around, and they have an impact on how we make food choices. They really do. They may have an impact on how we not only make food choices the day of the holiday gathering, but in some instances they may impact how you're making food choices leading up to and after that particular occasion. So I stuck in your pamphlet today, or in your materials today also, something I'd like you to take and really be reflective of should you choose. And it's 3 positive psychology exercises. We often think again about food and nutrition is just what we put in our mouth, but it's also what's going on in our mind. It's a huge part about what our body is feeling at that time. So these are simple exercises. You could do them all year round. You can make them a lifelong habit, a lifestyle habit. But I'll just read off the top of it real quick. 3 blessings. We all have blessings. We absolutely all have blessings. Even the people we would choose not to be around, they too have blessings. So if there is a person that you are a little stressed or have some anxiety that you're going to see at a holiday time, that person has something about them that is a blessing. And I ask that you think about them in that context. Maybe they have the most beautiful eyes. You don't like what comes out of their mouth, but they have beautiful eyes. Then when you're thinking ahead of time, write that person's name down and says, you know, I've always thought they have really nice eyes. So when you see that person across the table from you, that thought comes into your head, not a negative situation with that person at some other point in time. Those are just gentle reminders of being compassionate for even those that we may choose not to be around. But then you can also do that for yourself. A gratitude visit, and I love gratitude visits. What I really encourage you to do as it relates to the Thanksgiving holiday or any big holiday is after the holiday is over, I'd like you to pick 3 people that were in attendance. And I want you to send them a note of saying, the simplest of lines, just saying, "Dear Sarah, I just wanted to let you know I really enjoyed spending time with you. Hope you have a great week," or "wishing you the best." You don't have to write them a letter, but there's absolutely nothing better than when we receive a handwritten note in our mailbox. And we don't do that often enough. So I'm encouraging you, when you are expressing gratitude, it's not by the phone, it's not by text, it's not by email. It truly is go by a stamp and just keep it that line. Now maybe you're alone on a holiday and you don't have 3 people that you shared that with. Then go ahead and treat yourself to that opportunity to just write 3 gratitude notes to anybody that you know. And just say, I was thinking about you today on this Thanksgiving, and I'm really glad you're a part of my life. It will not only make that person feel really good, but I guarantee you it will make you feel really good. And then use your signature strengths in new ways. So we all have signature strengths. We all do. Because we're all different, our signature strengths aren't all the same. But on this back page, you will see a lot of words that represent signature strengths. I encourage you to take a look at those and really identify with yourself a couple that you really connect with. And then use those as you converse with others during the holiday time, okay? So if I leave with you with one thing, food in the holidays, food is more than turkey dressing and pumpkin pie. Food for a successful, loving, memorable holiday is the time that we share and gather around the physical food we are going to consume. But it's the food that makes us the most fulfilled possible in our life, the most fulfilled. And that is having rich, nurturing relationships. Be proud of whatever you do in the bulk of your day, whatever that career is. You may have a career as a professional dog lover, okay? Find some exercise before and after the meal, but I really encourage you to do that every day, at least 30 minutes. And then honor your spiritual practice. So whatever that is, I encourage you to honor that and cherish it and embrace it. So if you would be so kind to be gentle with yourself in this room together, I'm going to do a small exercise of gratitude from me to you, to leave you with a thought. And I'd like you to place your right hand on your heart. And then I'd like you to take your left hand, you'll have to put your papers down, and place it lightly on your abdomen. And then I'd really like you to close your eyes. And I want you to say inside of yourself 3 times, I love you and I'm listening. I love you and I'm listening. I love you and I'm listening. You can go ahead and open your eyes. And that exercise was, number 1, thank you for sharing it with me and allowing yourself to be vulnerable in something different and hearing the words say, I love you. But you just gave yourself the best holiday gift of all. You gave yourself a hug. And you told your body that you were listening. And that's what ultimate health is all about, is developing that relationship between yourself and your body. And when you tell your body you're listening, and you really listen with a keen ear, it's going to help you find solutions to becoming a healthier version of yourself than you are today. So that's the note that I leave you on, is compassion for yourself. It's the best gift you can do. But it would be really unusual if I came and visited somebody and did not bring a treat. So in closing,
You're ready.
Ann's really ready. So in
First.
So in closing, I have one question first. Is anybody nut allergic in the room, or nut sensitive? Okay, I needed to know. I mean, because you never know. So there's a plate up there on the right. There are no pecans in it. Okay. The plate on the left does have a small amount of pecans in it, but it's actually the honey pumpkin pie bite recipe out of the pamphlet that I just gave you. So that what you see up there are 18 servings. So I'll go back to that recipe in closing, and then I'm happy to visit and answer any questions that you guys have. But that recipe up there made 18 pumpkin pie bites. It would have made 1 pumpkin pie. So when we go back to the mind games of portion control, yeah, I'm going to eat 2 desserts, but if it's a pie slice, I'm going to cut that in half, and I'm going to be eating half of that slice of pie. And then if there's a chocolate cream pie, I'm going to cut that in half, and I'm going to eat half of that piece of chocolate cream pie. That's how I eat 2 desserts. I can't eat 2 whole slices of pie. I would be sick. I mean, that would be way too much for me. So when I tell you in jesting that I'm going to eat 2 desserts, I am. But I'm going to cut down that portion size. So those are the honey pumpkin bites. They're napkins, there's forks, so just put it on a napkin and scoop it out, or peel it and eat it if you choose. But I hope that I've given you some thoughts around food in the holidays in a different way, in a gentler way. Each of us are responsible for our well-being. Only us. We get to choose. We get to choose what our life looks like. And no matter what we're faced with in a day, somebody else has it worse. That's for sure. No matter what we face within our own bodies in a day, if we choose to make decisions and choices in what we eat and how we recreate, will it make some of the issues we have completely go away? Heck no. It won't. But can you improve it? And can you empower yourself to do it? Sure you can. So that's my wish for you. I wish you a great Thanksgiving, and I hope that you enjoy the pumpkin pie bites. And I'm happy to talk about food in any capacity that you would like while I'm here. Okay?
Wonderful. Thank you, Ray. That was awesome. Anybody have any questions for Mary at this point?
How does this relate to diabetes, being a diabetic? I mean, are you able to use the honey instead of the sugar?
I'm not a doctor, and I'm not a nutritionist, okay? So working with your doctor as to whatever your carb load is that you can handle, because all diabetics, my understanding, are different. You have to find the formula that works for you by tracking your blood sugar. White sugar is not your friend.
Right.
Anything that has white sugar in it is not your friend in particular. When you get into honeys and maple syrups, they're low glycemic, so it's going to keep blood sugar more even. I would encourage you, as you work towards the holidays or in your everyday life, that you're eating 5 or 6 times a day to keep that blood sugar as level as you possibly can. Using protein as your friend, so that you are evenly fueling your body so your energy doesn't spike up and down. Okay. My email address is on the literature that I've sent you. And as I said earlier, feel free to reach out to me. Put COPE in the subject line so I would know what talk you would come from. But feel free to reach out to me and ask me those questions. And if I don't have the answer or don't have an immediate suggestion, I'll do some research for you. I'm happy to do that.
Thank you.
My whole focus on as being a health coach and being a person that's passionate about food and people is I want everybody to feel better. I want the world to be gentler, more compassionate, kinder, more forgiving, more generous. And with my love of food, that's how I approach it. I encourage you to find the formula that works for your body best, because what works for you is right, We're all supercomputers. Each one of us is a different supercomputer. We were wired at birth. So what works for you is great. It might not work for me. And as you're sorting through, if you've never done any reading on Eat Right for your blood type, I encourage my clients to start there. I don't believe that there's any one diet protocol that fits all at all, because again, everybody, you know, you got to tweak it and find. You really have to develop that relationship of listening to what does your body feel like 2 hours after you ate. But there is some, I believe, some truth from the research on eating right for what your blood type is. So there's a Dr. D'Amato, and if you just type in Eat Right for your blood type, you will go to his website, and he has downloadable PDFs for every blood type. So take a look at, and it will recommend exercise for the blood type and give you some food categories to stay in or away from. Using my household as an example, my husband's an O, and O is the oldest blood type around, so we were hunters and gatherers, we were spearing large animals, we were running a lot. His enzymes, his digestive enzymes in his stomach, O's are able to really break down hard protein. I mean, and he needs it. I mean, if he doesn't, he could eat big meat on like a regular basis. For me, I don't feel very good. I'm an A, and really until I started studying health coaching, I had not looked into it that much. A's, I can eat meat. It needs to be lean meat. I do eat meat. I don't need meat. I need vegetables. The O blood type, they were hunters and gatherers. They loved running. Cardiovascular exercise is great. He identifies himself completely as a runner. It's in his wheelhouse. It fits that blood type. Me, I'm okay. Cardiovascular exercise for A's is okay. It just openly says we produce higher cortisol levels. So you're going to have to work 10 times as hard at that run than an O is. Darn straight I do. I mean, I have to really focus and work at it. My wheelhouse is yoga and Tai Chi, and I teach yoga at the Y as well, and it's absolutely right. My body says, oh yeah, you're doing just what it should do. But it's really finding out that relationship with you and your body. I can't tell you that, Ann can't tell you that.
I recommend too that if you do have diabetes, especially if you're newly diagnosed, that if you keep your blood sugar monitor close to you. 2 hours after you eat, check it. What did your blood sugar do with that particular meal? I mean, some people do great with rice. Other people they stay up and they don't ever come down with rice. So I mean, or same thing with potatoes. So you just kind of have to figure out like what does your blood sugar do with these different foods. So that's something that you can do that's real easy. Just keep that blood sugar monitor close by.
And that's where keeping a food diary and tracking that next to what you eat would be a really good tool to incorporate.
I have a question, Mary. What at the YM or the YWCA do you teach?
YM.
YM?
On Willow Knolls.
Okay, and is it on certain days?
Yoga at the Y there is a yoga class Monday through Thursdays at 8 a.m.
Monday through Thursday?
And Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 in the afternoon. I teach Monday and Thursday a.m. and Tuesday afternoon.
Okay.
I'm a real advocate for those that deal with joint issues for yoga. Yoga or Tai Chi.
Both of them.
Yeah, they're both really, really
They're both really good for balance and yeah, excellent.
They're really good. Maybe I should come back sometime and we could do a yoga class here.
That would be
Everybody could
fabulous.
come in their sweats and we do
Well,
a
I'll watch the video on that one. We got balance issues. Is yours walk-in or do you have certain
At the
time
Y, you need to be a member of the Y.
Or you're seeing your
There's silver sneakers, yeah.
Yeah.
The Y is a silver sneakers
That's
location. And that would be
What are you
free.
looking at me for?
Because you asked the question as to whether it was free or not. Well,
I can see you're the troublemaker in the group.
She started it. Didn't you?
Well, I take it you have to pay for your classes.
You have to be a member of the Y.